Please welcome Akamai Product Support Engineer, Vladimir Sidorov.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, good morning. How are you doing today? I can hear you. How are you doing today? Good? All right. Did you like keynote session? Yeah, that's awesome. OK, yeah, let's have small talk today. OK, you probably already know what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, first, let me recap it. So my name is Vladimir Sidorov. I'm product support engineer at Akamai. And so on the Edge conference 2017, I was talking about diagnostic tools and third-party tools you can use for troubleshooting. Anyone in this room participated in this session? Can you please raise your hand? Good, good. So, well, those tools are still available, and they're doing a great job. But there is one small problem. Not everyone have access to Akamai Control Center. So anyone who do not have access to Akamai Control Center wouldn't be able to use troubleshooting tools on Akamai Control Center. So what can we do about that? We've got Diagnostic Tools API version 2. And you can leverage this API in order to build dedicated, powerful problem solution dashboard. So our agenda today is pretty much straightforward. So we are going to talk about Diagnostic Tools API version 2. Next, we will cover major API features in details. Then we will see how problem solution dashboard can help troubleshooting various technical issues. And then we will finally wrap everything up with future plans and Q&A. Sounds good? OK. So this session is scheduled for 40 minutes. First 30 minutes we will spend talking about API. Then we will have about like 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can stop me at any time, and I will be able to answer. But we will have Q&A time after the session. So if it is OK with you, you can just keep your question till the end. Good. So originally, this session was supposed to be held by me and my peer, Nihil. Nihil wasn't able to attend, so I'm presenting on behalf of two of us. First of all, I want to say a few words about the API. Can you please raise your hand if you used the Diagnostic Tools API before? Oh, great. So we've got pretty much experienced audience here. So the Diagnostic Tools API allows you to diagnose many common problems Akamai customers might have. For instance, site doesn't work, performance issues, stale content, wrong behavior, caching issues, configuration issues, and many other problems. So this API offers an alternative to many of the features available at the Akamai Control Center. OK, so who should use this API? With this API, you can implement your own problem resolution dashboard. You can integrate it with your similar debugging tools. You can embed it into your mobile application or handling logic. Or you can design more proactive interface for monitoring performance. Before we begin, let me walk you through the main features of the API version 2. So first, API version 2 allows you to access data asynchronously to avoid timeouts. You know that some requests might take more than like a standard timeout interval. So for that purpose, we allow you to send requests asynchronously. So you send requests, you wait for some time until data is ready, and then you just download the data. It also allows you to run many familiar networking tools such as Dig, curl, MTR, or get logs either from location on the Akamai network or from a specific Akamai Edge server. With the error statistics feature, you can research on how Edge servers communicate both with end-user client requests and with your origin server. You're also able to aggregate error statistics for each CP code. You can run tests on a specific Edge server location or IP address. You can send individual end-user diagnostic link to trace what happens to their request. This API also allows you to diagnose problems with global traffic management properties or with ASI code. So because asynchronous requests will be used often, so let me take a look on how it works. Here is a sequence diagram which explains the request flow. So we do have a user who send a post request to the API. Subsequently, the API sent a backend request to some business logic server, which handles the actual request. Then end user send, in the response, you will get this JSON object, which actually tells you that, OK, here is your request ID, which you would use for data download. And here is the link you would need to follow in order to check whether your data is ready or not. Let's say that user is not patient and he hits the link right away, and here is the response he will get. It will be 200 response. Means that your data is not ready. Please wait a little bit more. And it also contains the same request ID and same link URL. Oh, well, these IDs should be same. I'm sorry. So next, eventually, user hits the link, and he gets a 303 response code, which means see other. It's standard redirect. So with the location. So this is the URL which end user would need to follow in order to download the data. And eventually, we get the data. Now, let's now dig into a few major features of the API. First feature we will cover is error statistics information. Anyone familiar with the error statistics information tool? It is available on Akamai Control Center, so you probably use it using Akamai Control Center GUI. So exactly the same tool is available within the API. So error statistics information allows you to view the real-time statistics for a URL or CP code. So since we call it estats, right? Okay, since estats usually takes time to get data, it is recommended to use asynchronous requests we just talked about a minute before. To perform asynchronous request, you send post request to the API endpoint with CP code in the request URL. 202 response code means that request was successfully accepted. And then link in the JSON response body is the link to get response data once it is ready. Data is available at this operation URL for at least 24 hours. That means that even after 24 hours, you still would be able to follow this link in order to get your data. Means you can share it with someone. You can refer to this data later on. So data wouldn't be wiped as soon as you downloaded it. It will be kept in the backend. That's a very cool feature. So once data is ready, it can be downloaded in JSON format. Response data contain following information: error statistics, number of edge hits versus number of origin hits, origin status code distribution, top edge servers serving traffic to end user and hitting your origin server. Well, this tool is useful for getting a solid grasp on how your website is performing in a near real time. For example, when a customer calls in to Akamai technical support, this is almost the first tool we use in order to just get an idea what's happening with your website. Like how many errors happening, is it widespread or is it a local problem? What is the source of error? What is the most frequent error status code, and so on and so forth. So this is the GUI you can implement using the API. So you enter the CP code. Because this is a synchronous request, you will get the link which says check it out. So once data is ready, you click this link, and you will see your data on the screen. So this is just a sample screen you can build yourself. And we will see it later. So the next feature is error translation. I'm pretty much sure that many of you have seen this character string before. So at first glance, it doesn't make any sense, but it really do. So we call this error string a reference number. or error string. So error translation allows you to get request time, edge server IP address, and unique request ID from based on this string. And then error translation will allow you to get logs. So based on this string, the API identifies edge server IP, request time, and unique request ID. Then we collect logs from an edge server and show it on the screen. We can also use any command line to see what's actually happened. So all synchronous requests produce same post response. If a request was successfully accepted, it is 202 status code, and with request ID and with link. After some time, the data can be downloaded with GET request, as we saw on the sequence diagram. So most of the time, having only this data is enough to understand why an error happened. This is why this tool is particularly useful. And here's a sample GUI we can have using this API. We will see this later, too. Next, let's take a look at 3 most widely used networking tools, such as Dig, MTR, and Curl. The API allows you to run these commands from any location or on a specific edge server. This is why the API is really cool, because you do not usually have access to our edge machines, right? But if you wanted to run a specific command from a specific edge server, you can do it with this API. So let's take about every tool in a little bit more details. So Dig stands for Domain Information Grouper. It is a network administration command line tool for querying domain name, system name servers. It's useful for verifying and troubleshooting DNS problems and also to perform DNS lookups. MTR is my traceroute or Matt's traceroute. This tool is very useful to check the network connectivity from Akamai towards your origin server or between Akamai and end user. Curl. Curl is client URL. That is command line web client, which allows you to run any HTTP requests right from command line. Again, same as Dig and MTR, you can run curl from any edge server or from any location available and troubleshoot. For example, your customer calls in and say, okay, my customers in some location in Boston, let's say, do not have access to my website. You check, you're located in San Francisco, and you check your website, and it works perfectly. But so how do you check what's happening when you access your website from Boston? You use this tool. Right, so let's take a look on each tool in more details. So here's how you can check connectivity between edge server with IP address 1.1.1.1 and the hostname developer.test.com. Or here's, you see vsidorov.com. This is my personal domain I used for testing. So you can optionally specify resolve DNS equal true or false if you want to resolve IP address or not. And here is response JSON object you will get. So here you can see all the major, well, it's pretty much the same output as MTR produce, like all the hops, packet loss, latency, and so on and so forth. So now let's take a look at the dig command. So again, we want to do name resolution for this www.vsidorov.me from edge server 1.0.104.65.5.101. And here is the output you can get. Again, so this is JSON, which you can represent in any way you like. Just use standard like Bootstrap, jQuery, whatever library for user interface you like, you can use it and represent in a beautiful way. Or if you like plan to use some kind of automation, you can just use JSON as it is and do something about it. For example, this is a dashboard I created. This is how I can represent the output of the dig command. Now let's take a look at Carl. So Carl accept as a request body accept JSON file and send it towards to the API. So for example, we wanted to run curl command for www.vsidorov.me and for this edge server. So this is the JSON body we feed to the curl command, and this is the response you can get. Does it make sense? Good. So we also have tools to get logs. So you can get logs from any location within an Akamai network for a specific IP address. So this feature has so many different use cases, so it's very hard to name all of it, but just to name a few. For example, you want to see what happened with some problem. So customer report a problem, you've got edge server IP address, you've got a request time, and it is not really like an error, but it is like latency or whatever. You can get this tool and download logs and see how much time it took for the request to be served to end users, how much time it took for the request to fetch the content from your origin. So you can use this tool in order to get all that information. There is one small thing you need to note. So this tool might not get you log data if you are dealing with SSL Network, which is a secure content delivery network. In that case, you would need to run dig from a ghost location to get the IP address and then use get log lines from an IP address. Data is generally available for 48 hours. So for 48 hours, we keep data on the machine. After that, it will be rolled out. So within 48 hours, you should be able to download logs. But sometimes, if machine is very busy, logs might be rolled out like faster than 48 hours. We've seen cases when it's rolled in like 24 hours. So debug URL. I'm not going to get into great details about the debug URL. I mean, about the API itself, it's pretty much the same what we've covered before. So like request, JSON response. I just wanted to show how you can see it on the GUI. So debug URL tool allows you to send requests to a website. In this example, it's https://www.vsidorov.me. And we specify here edge server IP address we want to use. We can add some headers, and we click submit button. And because this request might take more than we can expect, it is recommended to use asynchronous requests. We do have regular requests too, but in many cases it might time out, so better to use a synchronous one. So again, you click the link and you see the data. Okay, so this is all I wanted to talk about the API endpoints itself. And now I want to cover more about use cases. For example, one use case which might be very useful for many customers is using the API with mobile applications. For example, in many cases, we've seen this problem. So our customers call in and say, OK, my end users, we use like mobile application. We use our website, which a mobile application is talking to. And users just complaining about performance issues. And in order to troubleshoot, we need to get end user IP data, because we want to take logs from edge machine which end user get connected to, and we want to troubleshoot. We wanted to see why that particular end user, why there was a delay. And in order to get user IP data, we generate one-time URL. You can generate it with API too. And we send it to end user. End user clicks the link, and we can see end user IP data on Akamai Control Center. So what we usually hear from our customers is that, OK, this is mobile application, and actually our end users can't click the link for various reasons. They just do not have an opportunity to talk to their end users, right? So we think that one of the use cases for this user IP details endpoint might be embedding the link into the, like, for example, you have your feedback button in your application. So when a user have problem, they hit feedback button problem. And when they send a feedback to you, they also, like inside of your application, you can hit the link for them. I can't speak much about compliance here, but that is the way you can collect IP information data from them. So any end user who had a problem can send their IP data to you, and you would be able to troubleshoot it yourself. If you can't, you can open a ticket with end user IP information details. But there is one thing you need to bear in mind. So Diagnostic Tools API endpoints impose rate limiting constraints of 10 requests per 60 seconds. We are working toward improving this limit. It is on roadmap, and it might be worked out somewhere like through the next year. But at the moment, it is 10 requests per 60 seconds, so you need to be mindful how you use API, because if there are a lot of requests coming to API, your account will be temporarily locked. So, and here's the data going to API, and you can see it on the screen. Okay, I think everyone wants to take a look on what you can build with the API yourself, right? So in this presentation, I used this technology stack in order to build some sort of the dashboard. So it is Flask, Python, Bootstrap, jQuery, and Jinja is template engine. Okay, I'll give you some time to take a picture. So the presentation is over here. Let's just take a look at the real thing we've got here. Right. So this is not the one. Okay, so this particular screen is just an example. I mean, I do not have enough data to build this graph, but I just presented how you can possibly represent the data collected over time on your dashboard. For example, you can use eStats, and you can poll API, let's say, once in 5 minutes, and you can collect error statistic information, and you can then plot it on the graph. So that's very cool, because, for example, well, this is probably will be very close to the real time. But again, you need to be mindful about rate limit. Then you can put some a button for every tool here. You can track how many times it was used. You can also put some, for example, how much time did every tool took to. So you can put any data on this screen, and you can play with, this output. So for example, we have a spike of 5xx errors here. Okay, we've got a few tools here. We can use CP code for Luna control for Akamai control center. Sorry, for control.akamai.com. We can click submit button. So it says that we have fetching data from the backend. Please wait for 10 seconds. We don't want it to wait. We click it. So you see that we see that URL changed. Now we have the request IDs here in the URL. So you can share it with your other counterparts. Okay, data is not ready yet, so we didn't get anything. We click again, nothing. And it can take up to 2 or 3 minutes. It depends. So for that purpose, we already have a URL here with data ready. Let's check it once again if it's not ready. Okay, it's here. So it took less than 1 minute. So what do we see here? We see edge statistics information. We see origin statistics. origin statistics information, we do see edge error breakdown by edge IP. And here's the link to download logs. It doesn't work at the moment, but just for the purpose of this presentation, I show that you can put link here too. So we do have origin errors, and we have a lot of interesting data here. We do have object status information. You can learn more about object status information in the API user guide. It's available there. So for everything, you can get very good idea on what is happening with your service. For example, at the moment, it is like percentage failure is 19%. And you can see that a major contributor to it is 401s, which means it's non-authorized. So it means that we are getting a lot of login attempts which are failed. And you can also see that the higher amount of 401s is coming from origin. That means that almost all errors coming from, all 401s are coming from origin. So you can say that, OK, this is coming from origin. That's why we send it down to end users. So we are fine. Let's go to see next tool. So error translation. OK, so we do have error reference number to use. We again click submit button, and it says that we are fetching data. We can click check it out. You see, this is completely running on my local host. The IP address is the local host IP address. So data is not ready yet. OK, it is 400. It might happen sometimes. Because there was, OK, I didn't spend too much time to beautifully represent this error message. But what this error message means is no summary log information found. Means that probably log data for this particular request already wiped out of the edge machine. Because I did created this error string a few days back, so we can check if the data is available in the API. No, it is not. That's good. So then we can generate new one. So we stop our web server. We go to, OK, it's coming from cache. Let's try to not hitting. OK, let's copy image address and add some. Oops, this is different. Let's see. OK, something what is not in cache. OK, we've got fresh reference number here. So we put it here. We click submit button. And we are waiting for data to come. Well, usually it doesn't take too much time. Just. Sorry. Can you please grab the microphone?
Hey, thank you. While we're waiting for it, is there a specific expiry time for those unique error codes?
Sorry, a certificate expiry time?
Yeah, so if you're looking for a message, say it's a couple days old, we've run into issues where we can't get the actual data back because it's expired.
OK, just to recap your question. So you're asking about, do we have any certificate expiration time? Is it for origin?
It's for origin or for those unique error codes that you were showing if you're trying to triage just
OK, well, as long as the log data is available on the edge server, you can download it. If you have a valid reference number, and if logs are still on the edge server, there is nothing what can stop you from fetching the data using this API or Akamai Control Center Diagnostic Tools. Sorry, just 1 second, please. Wait for the microphone.
To add to this question, are we keeping the data on the server for 48 hours or long? Like,
It is, yes, it is log data which we keep on the edge server for 48 hours, for up to 48 hours.
okay, so
But
this string will,
this data is
valid
different.
for 48 hours then?
The API response we keep for at least 24 hours. That is different data.
No, I mean the string, the reference string. When I have that reference, is it valid for 48 hours?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The log data for that reference number is will be on the edge, will be available on the edge server for about like 48 hours. So here's what we've got. So we have edge response. So it means that is a response from the edge machine toward end user. And we have 4 forward requests toward origin server. Do you have any idea why it is 4 forward requests? Anyone in this room can tell me that? Yes, please. Yes, that's correct. So by default, we send requests once, it failed, and we retry up to 3 times. Therefore, we have 4 requests, 4 log lines here. That's absolutely right. So let's just take a look at what's happened, and we have error connect fail. Means that edge server isn't able to establish TCP connection with this forward IP address, which is my origin server. You can also read more about these error messages in the user guide, in the API user guide. So don't worry, is everything there. So if we are good with this tool, we can go to the next. So we have, okay, let me just type it. Tap. So we have some host name here, and we can dig from, let's say, from a location. Let's do it from Tokyo. And we wanted to get a record for this www.sidorov.me. So we wait for a while, and we get IP address, which is IP, I don't know, IP0. If we check where this IP is located in, it should be Japan. Nope, it is United States. I don't know why. Probably there is something with my DNS here. Because, okay, anyway, it will give you IP address from any location. Maybe there is a bug in the program, I don't know, I'm sorry about that. So basically the idea is that you can do dig from any location, or from any machine. And then you can use debug URL for a host name. So you can put some, let's say this one. This IP, we do not want to add any headers this time, we just click submit button. And what do you think will be the response? It will be error because my web server is now down. Or if we eventually hit a cache, which I doubt, yeah, we will get something from cache. Again, we can just use something I did before. So, nope, it is dead too. Okay, it just takes some time before we can get data. But I think you've got the idea. So this is just a simple example on how we can use API and do with the API whatever we want. We are unbounded with the only thing which restricts us from doing anything is like some security policy on Akamai side. But literally, you can use this API and do so many things which standard Akamai Control Center do not let you do, or for example, if you have, let's say, some third-party support organization which helping your company to offload end users requests, and you don't want to, obviously, you don't want to give them full access to Akamai Control Center, this is the solution you can use. You can build for them like tool which they can use, and that will be very useful. So, okay, we've got response, so you get HTTP response, some like status code. Yeah, it seemed like it was TCP hit. So you remember that my web server is down, but since it was TCP hit, we've got 200 response, so there is no error. So you see TCP hit here. And another good thing about this API is that even if you like strip like headers, you can possibly overcome this limitation. So this is the logs you can get. Okay, we've got, sorry, it took a little bit longer than I anticipated. So we've got about like 40 minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions, please ask. Yep, please.
Hi. One question that I have about the debug URL is when you put in the host name on there and it retrieves the CP code on there, is there any way via the API to retrieve all of the CP codes that may be related underneath that host name? For example, if you're using Image Manager,
right.
Image Manager now has separate CP codes
Yes.
for everything. When you have staging, I'd like to find a way if there's a way to say for domain.com, these are all of the different CP codes that could be associated with that.
Okay, yeah, so just to repeat. So the question was, is there a way to get all the CP codes which are used in the configuration? Is that correct? Yeah, so as far as I remember, you can't get the list of the CP codes which are attributed to a single configuration file. But what you can do, you can use a specific URL. You can use, there is another API endpoint, which allows you to translate your URL. So you can translate URL, and for that specific URL, you will get the CP code.
For a support panel, one of the things that I often run into is people associate, okay, I went to domain.com and I grabbed the CP code on there, but they don't realize that the images have separate CP codes. And so, or the home page, it's an embedded asset. They said, well, I purged the home page and my asset didn't start showing up. They don't realize that there are other ones. So I'm trying to find out if there's any way to help for a dashboard to support end users that's a little foolproof, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So your concern is that people who do not know how to, that like CP codes are related to the URL, so might resolve to run CP code and to do wrong thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a very valid concern. However, there is no way we can get all the CP codes, and as I said, you can translate, right? So let me translate, get and translate URL. So you can feed URL and you can translate it, and here in the response you can get the CP code. Yeah, at the moment we do not have the functionality to do that, but I think that the solution might be just to train people, explain them that CP codes vary depends on the actual URL, because we have different rules, and rules are getting applied from top to bottom. So in order to get right CP code for a URL, you need to feed the actual URL. Or you can also feed the whole URL into the debug URL tool and get the CP code from the cache key, right? So here in the HTTP headers, you have the CP code for that particular URL. That probably will be the way to do it. Anybody else? Yes, please.
I want to ask the explanation about this X Akamai header.
Yes. Oh, so question is, what is the meaning of all this Akamai headers? So are you familiar with debug headers? Yeah, so debug headers is this. So if you want to get debug headers, you need to append pragma headers to your request, and you will get these headers in response. As far as I know, we have explanation for all these headers here. No. Okay. I don't remember. There is a place where you can find, probably it's also available in the knowledge base articles. There are many external knowledge base articles you can read about these headers. So if you have time, just come here and we will find the right place for the explanation about every single debug header.
Okay, but I want to explanation on learn.akamai.com or developer.akamai.com. This response is required for customers.
Yes.
I think.
Oh, okay. So you can probably share external KB article with them.
Thank you.
Okay, we are out of time. So thank you very much for your participation. And don't forget to rate the presentation. It is available in the app. So if you like the presentation, thumb up button. If you didn't like, thumb down. And we will take it very seriously, and we will improve. Thank you very much for your time.